What a delightful movie. It's even better the second time.
You know what? I've rediscovered the film again. There's so many. This film is so special. I mean, there's so many different little things about it. You know, the black and white and the silent style, obviously, but also the picture format. For instance, 4:3, which just for instance obliged us to create sets that are much higher, like 18-foot sheets to fit the picture. You know.
Yeah, I noticed that, but I mean, it's when even when sound came in, they had to cut that down because they had to put the microphones in there.
Yes.
And to see those tall ceilings, to see that scene where the 3 floors of staircases, where they kept walking up and down them.
Right. That's actually not a set. It's the Bradbury Building in Los Angeles. It was used by Ridley Scott before it's famous for that. But it was actually this scene. It was funny because we shot it first at Paramount on stairs that existed there, and the producers in France didn't like it, and they said, "Why don't you try and find a new location?" And I think it was a good idea to reshoot it because the scene is.
Well, let's back up. Why don't you tell us how you came to this project?
Well, I was that's okay. I moved to America in 2000, 2002, in that area, and I joined the Producers Guild of America. And I thought I would try my luck in Hollywood, but I knew that I couldn't maybe compete with the people that were already my age and already there, you know. And so my chance was that I knew how to work in Europe, you know, and so I decided to sort of partner up with the French Guild, the equivalent of the PGA, and so we did a signature thing during the Cannes Film Festival, and at that time, on that spot, the head of the guild there said, "Hey, Antoine, do you know there's a film that's going to shoot in Los Angeles? You should try and call these people." And I didn't know how, but I did. You know, I ended up finding the phone number, and they said, "Can we meet?" I said, "No, I'm actually leaving for Los Angeles. Will you be in Paris tomorrow?" I said, "Yes." "Can we meet?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And we met for like half an hour, and they told me, "You got the job." And I was like, "Really?" You know. And I came back to Los Angeles, and I said to my wife, "I think I have a job. You know, my first big film in LA, but I'm not sure. You know." Because it was just a handshake. I hadn't met the director, who was also the writer of the movie. And it's kind of unusual. Usually when you get on a film like that, you meet everybody and everybody has his word. But this time, not. And but soon enough, after the festival, the director showed up, and we started scouting for locations. And that's how it started.
I mean, it's just remarkable that this film got made. It had a lot. I mean, it took a lot of chances, but one of the biggest ones seems to me is that they decided to shoot it in Los Angeles. Why was that decision made?
So at first it wasn't going to be that way. It was going to be shot. Only the exteriors were going to be done in Los Angeles, and there were very little exteriors really. When you look at the film, most of the streets that you see are studio lot films. I mean streets. We shot at Paramount, Warner Brothers, and the Red Studios, and the guy who makes the Red Epic camera. And at first, all those exteriors would have been done in Bulgaria or some Eastern country. But the more we scouted and the more the director saw what he had here, and considering that he was counting on a look for the film, including the extras. Each extra on this movie are chosen by the director because people were thinner also in the 20s and the 30s, and there's an American look, and I don't think you would find that look in an Eastern country. It had to be genuine, and the Los Angeles just offered so much that it was actually the director who convinced. We did budgets, you know, but it was surely it would have been cheaper to do it over there. But the only way this film would have a chance, being black and white and silent, is the production value, what you see on the screen, and we had to go for it. You know, we had to trust our beliefs and our faith in the movie, and think we were gonna make the best movie ever.
Well, I think you did. What, in addition to being executive producer on this, you were also effectively the line producer on it.
Yes.
And I mean, the attention, the amount of detail, the extras, I mean, it must have been quite a
Yeah.
experience.
Everything was thought out. I mean, we tested before. Because obviously you're seeing a film in black and white, but at the time when we shot it, there was only one stock of negative black and white made by Fuji, and we couldn't. You know, the DP couldn't play with sensitivity, so we shot in color. And then we turned the monitors. We would be watching the film, and we're obviously in black and white. But we tested colors also. You know, before we shot them. What's a purple like? What's a red? What's a blue? What's a green? You know, green turns out white in black and white, for instance. So that goes for the costumes. You know, as the film progresses, you know, when Jacques Valentin becomes poor, for instance, his costumes are larger, because that way you think he's not eating, he's thinner. There's all sorts of tricks all the time. The film and the film that you see that both make, we work with Panavision, and I don't know if you know this, but Panavision owns their lenses. You can't buy a Panavision lens. So they
You can only rent them, right?
Yeah, they have all their lenses. So we were able to just ask some of the technicians there to pick up some lenses from the 20s, refurbish them, and as we progress in time with the movie, we use these lenses, and then you can see, if you see the film again, maybe, or if you did not notice, the films have these little edges that are very soft, even black sometimes. And that's because we're using very old
The spherical lenses.
instead of filtering like we do today.
Well, I was talking about, though, managing large numbers of extras, and there are several scenes in this film that have a lot of people in them.
Yeah, all the theater scenes inside the theater, for instance, it looks like there's 1,500 people, but we actually had only 300. We multiplied them.
Digitally?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very long process. It took 3 nights to shoot that. It was downtown Los Angeles, and the system is you take an angle. We shot one camera, the whole film, and so you film this way, then you ask everybody to react in front of the movie, which was actually not playing. It was the first AD who was like, now you're happy, now you're crying, now you're clapping, now you're angry, now you're sad, and then reposition the people in another part of the room, and shoot again, and do it in every single angle, with a camera in the stands, on the stage, on the side. It was really, really long, and everybody that you see in there are dressed with stocks of costumes from the 30s and the 20s.
Which you could probably only find in Los Angeles.
Probably. Maybe New York.
Yeah. And as far as the set design,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it seemed very, very meticulous. A lot of attention to detail.
Right. Michel's a fine arts graduate, and he draws very well. So he draw the entire movie frame by frame. I have a book where the entire movie is drawn by him.
Were they storyboards?
Yeah,
or?
storyboard. And because, of course, if we pull back to the beginning, and the script in the beginning is there's no dialogues, right? It's just a story. It had pictures just to of intent, just to have sort of a feel and a mood. There were two portraits, one of Jean Dujardin and the other one of Bérénice Bejo. And once in a while there was a title, because also actors on the set were given lines. They actually speak. There's just no microphones. An anecdote on this is, until the last day, in the budget, I had a line for a sound man, and I said to Michel, "Are you sure you don't want a sound man?" He said, "No, Antoine, it's a silent movie." So I erased it, but it was really strange to go ahead in the movie. One of the things that was fun for everyone when we shot the movie is we started by shooting the film in the films. So it's the happy time of the movie. And I think we spent 3 days with Jean driving his Bugatti that we made, that you don't see very much in the film now, but we could make a whole feature film with that car. And we had speakers on the set, and Michel had selected music that were the tone of the scene, and he would play the music throughout the scene sometimes, but certainly during preparation, so that everybody, the actors, but also the technicians that were there, were in the mood of the scene. It was very, very special.
Something I noticed watching the film, it occurred to me that with a silent film, you have to watch it all the time. You can't look away because there's no dialogue, there's no sound to give you cues. So your eyes have to be glued to the screen, and that really draws you into the story, into the characters, much more so than with a talking movie.
I guess so. What I've discovered, I kind of knew this, but now I'm certain, is that you participate more. You're as a spectator, you're less passive. You invent lines. Sometimes you see the actors speaking and you don't know what they're saying. Because I was there, I know that sometimes they were speaking French, so you can always try guessing. It's French, so you can't if you don't speak French. And sometimes they were just going like that, and so it's true. You're more into the film. Absolutely, great.
Yeah, and he used the writer and the director seemed to use the minimal amount of titles. There are very, very few titles in here.
That was definitely the biggest challenge for the actors, and I think when all of them, whether it's John Goodman or James Cromwell or Penelope Ann Miller, Penelope Ann Miller. Penelope, I can't say it.
Like me with your name.
Or Missy, right? Or Missy Pyle. The challenge of conveying an emotion, for all these actors, I think it was back to acting 101,
But you saw it in that one scene that they repeated over and over again, the dancing scene, when he got himself into the scene each time. He went to the same place with his eyebrows, with his the way his eyes darted back and forth. So, I mean, it was nice to see how the actor works to get himself into a role.
Yeah. Also, this is something that was really confusing for us, the working team, is that there was also a working team filming the film, because what you're mentioning is the film and the film part. So we had actors playing the crew, but we also were the crew. And the walls of the studio that you see are fake walls. It's the set. And so for everyone, actually, when we were working around designing the set and everything, it was very confusing. But we have walls. Why are we doing this? Oh yeah, because that's the scene where we're, and yes, it's a film about Hollywood and the story of Hollywood and making movies.
But the interesting thing is, you don't have to know anything about the history of Hollywood, about the transition from silent films to talking films. You don't. I mean, you don't have to know anything about that, and you still are entranced by the film because the story and the performances really carry it.
Yeah, I mean, for filmmakers, I think there's one motto: is story, story, story. You know, the success of a film is a good story.
Yeah, because I mean, Singing in the Rain tells basically the same story. There are bits from Sunset Boulevard or A Star Is Born in here, but you don't have to know any of that history to appreciate the story that goes on because it's a love story.
Yeah, and I think the exercise, if you can call this such, is an homage to a genre that is gone, but it's really not gone. I mean, if any silent movies are playing in this town, go see them. And go see them on a big screen because they were made for that, and they're made for also an audience that responds. It's like maybe perhaps watching a popular show on TV at home with the family. It's a group experience.
Yeah, and there's nothing like seeing a film with an audience, with other people who you know are there for the same reasons you're there because they want to see this particular film. So you have a camaraderie with those people, even though you know nothing about them, because you have the same interests.
Yeah, and sometimes you come out of a movie, and this is good today, and you disagree. You saw something, and I saw something else, and on a film like this, there's plenty of things like that. I mean, I've discovered that speaking with other people, where they interpret a scene very differently from me, and that's where the film belongs to the public, really.
Yeah, but then you're always right. You shot this film digitally?
No.
Or on film?
No, we shot on film. I think it was obvious for lens choices, for just the possibilities that negative would give. That the picture's too perfect, perhaps digitally, and that's the last thing we wanted on this movie.
If you had the choice, would you have shot it on black and white negative stock?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, when Wim Wenders shot Wings of Desire, he used black and white stock,
but I mean,
and he used Jean-Luc Godard's director of photography also.
But how do you did your director of photography light any differently, knowing that it was going to be all the color was going to be taken out of it?
Yeah, it was not so much about the colors. He lit differently because of the size of the sets. The sets were gigantic. I mean, unusually big. It shows, I think, a lot. For instance, when he discovers all his furniture, and he leaves his bed. The bed is actually Mary Pickford's house in Hancock Park. The hallway is the E-Bell in Los Angeles, and the room is a set, and the door is big like this. You can tell when he opens the door, the door handle is about this height from him.
Wow. So the one scene takes place in 4 or 5 different places.
Oh yeah.
And that's not unusual, or is it?
For filmmaking, no.
But for someone who has to organize it and run it to make sure that things match, it
gets complicated.
It's complicated. Well, let's talk a little bit about the best actor in the movie, which would be the dog, right? It's a Jack Russell Terrier.
Yeah, Jack Russell Terrier. Uggy is his name.
Uggy. Oh. I come from the University of Georgia. We have a mascot whose name is Ugga, but he's a bulldog. Where did you find this dog?
So we had a casting.
A casting call for a dog.
Yep. So when you're casting an animal in a movie, you're casting not only the animal but also its trainer, because in the end you're going to relate. You know, there's the producer in you that knows that he has to deal with a human being and a paycheck, and then the director looks more at the performance of the dog. So we took the cheapest one.
But he probably turned out to be the best one, right?
And you know what? He was the best. He actually, after the after all the awards and everything, he toured the world. He's very often in the New York Times full page for the Humane Association defending animals in films. And he wrote a book.
He did.
And I got a
autographed copy.
Autographed copy with his paw, and a big woof. Yeah.
That's
and the book is how I was mistreated by Jean Dujardin, the actor.
Is the dog is his real name Augie, or is that
That's his screen name is Jack.
Yeah,
but his name is his real name. He's retired now.
Oh,
yeah.
But it's, I mean, he was just so incredible in this film.
Yeah.
Was how many takes did he ruin, shall we say?
Not much. I mean, these guys are very smart. We actually had 3 dogs, but I think he did 99% of the film. The third one was very young and was more there to be trained to be, you know, a circus dog, if you want to film. And the middle one was half his age probably, and was already trained, but and of course their fur was all painted like Augie.
But not permanently, right?
No, absolutely not. No.
The other thing that fascinated me was one of the scenes that fascinated me was the dance scene at the end. I noticed how long some of those takes were. You know,
it's a single shot.
Yeah,
it's a single shot, and there's a story to that. First of all, you probably know we don't shoot movies in order of time, and it's rare that the last day of shoot is the last take. I mean, last scene. In this case, it was. We shot it on a Sunday. We had like 4 days of retake. But just to go back to dancing, the scene in the office where they seduce the producer, John Goodman, to go into a tap dancing movie together, we shot it on the 3rd day of shooting.
Oh. And how long was the shooting schedule?
Well, officially 35 days, which was, you know, we put in like 16 hours every day.
Yeah.
Like the dance scene where you were talking about, where we see them do it again and again, we wrapped at I think 8 a.m. Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. Was it a union shoot?
I'm sorry?
Was it a union shoot?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But you know, the thing is, when you know, we did all the exteriors first and then the studio afterwards, and when we got to the studio, everybody said, wow, we're going to go to studio. It's going to be an 8 to 5 day. Great. And but on the first day, you know, we were late 2 hours, so on Tuesday you have to push it back 2 hours, and then Tuesday the same, and by Friday the call is 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So the weekend was pretty.
You do night shoots, right?
Yeah.
But so back to the dancing.
The last scene, there was a catastrophe. They delivered the floor that you see, the black floor, and we rehearsed. We shot it on Monday. No, we rehearsed on Sunday, and after both dancers had danced, the floor was marked everywhere. The gloss was gone, so we couldn't shoot Monday morning. And for some reason, there wasn't a technician around that knew how to get that floor in order. So in this case, it's the fault. It's the producer's problem. It's his fault because he took the cheap floor instead of the expensive floor. So a lot of blame went to me.
Oh, I thought you were talking about John Goodman.
No, the real producer. And then this guy who was part of the set design scene found a guy, I think, who worked in a hospital with these machines that you push around, and we got this guy in. He was our savior, and he made it glossy and perfect. And it was, maybe we did 3 takes.
So who
maximum.
taught them to dance?
A French guy.
Or did they know how to?
When Michel decided he was going to write a black and white movie, he lives with Bérénice Bejo, right? It's his wife. So she was into it right away. And then he had done 2 previous films with Jean Dujardin. And he said, there's going to be he asked him if he wanted to be in the film, and it took some time. But he convinced him, and he said, there's going to be tap dancing in this movie. You have to tap dance. You have to learn if you want to be in this movie. And directors are always with challenges, and so the 2 of them started taking tap dance classes almost a year before. The script wasn't even written, but they knew they were going to have a final number to do, and the little number in the office that we saw.
But they were so good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 40. It's not. I took tap dancing, but when I was 20, and I thought it was hard. It's super hard. These guys, Jean Dujardin is an incredible actor. There's a scene where he's fencing. Honest to God, I know him. In the morning, he had never fenced in his life. And he was shooting the other scenes with Zorro, and there was another whole Errol Flynn thing that's not on the screen anymore. He had 3 film in the film to do, and after lunchtime, he had to do the fencing. And in between takes, he learned how to fence with a stunt director.
Wow. And
Talented.
Yeah. If only there were more demand for fencers in the world today, right? He could.
Right.
But I noticed you had some Zulus in there too.
Oh yeah, that was really funny. That was also in the film in the film. It was those pastiche of these movies that were inventing a look of a tribe that doesn't even exist, and just trying to portray these movies that described a world that we hadn't really discovered yet.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Listen, let's throw it open to some questions from the audience. If you have questions, just raise your hand and
I just want to know a little bit about the dynamics on the set, because obviously there's a whole bunch of layers going on, from things on signs to who came up with a lot of those, or were they a collaboration with the DOP and the director and the writer, or did the writer come up with the lonely man on the marquee?
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Everywhere, I know I work on a lot of sets, and sometimes an actress will just go write something in a corner to her husband or something, but that movie's riddled with it. Absolutely.
But all of them relate to what's happening in the story at the
Yeah,
moment.
but there's even little jokes going on and all kinds of things. So I'm just curious how that dynamics did work on the set.
Like graffitis.
Well, graffitis, but also all kinds of indications of the hand.
Those are all proposed by the director, who had a really. There's nothing invented. It's all done in pre-production and organized, and all the variety headlines, all the newspapers, all the bills of all the films. All this was done here. In LA, by a guy who was an extraordinary drawer, and who had all these. But the name of the titles was all Michel.
But also, I mean, every time, all the titles of her films really were 3 words, and they described exactly where we were in the story at that moment.
Yeah.
I can't think of examples of them because I can't remember things, but
Yeah.
they were all so perfect. And
Beauty Spot, for instance, which is one of the films, was going to be the title of the artist, and we changed it to the artist.
and why was that?
I think the producers liked it better, and Michel as well. It was more about him than her, you know.
We haven't talked about Harvey Weinstein, who distributed this picture, and maybe we shouldn't. But he had a really successful Oscar campaign for the picture. It won what, 6 or 7 Academy Awards?
5.
Oh,
5. We were nominated for 7, I think. We got 5.
including Best Picture, Best
Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Costumes, Best Music.
Yeah.
And but we won every single other award that there is, which is...
Talk about the music a little bit. How large was your orchestra?
It's a full-piece orchestra. It was done in Belgium. Ludovic Bourse is a really... First of all, he's a really nice guy. He worked really hard. I don't know if you noticed, but it's the same music throughout, just played slower or faster or with different instruments.
I mean, it's an extraordinary score, and you can hear it. Again, it's like it used to be done. Right?
Yeah.
There are no synthesizers in there.
There has been screenings in France with the orchestra. They've done that. I wasn't able to go, but...
Yeah, I wonder how they did that with the dialogue, with the actual sound sections of the film, I guess.
Yeah, just like the old days.
Yeah. Other questions?
First of all, I just want to say it's such an honor to have you here. It's just such a privilege for all of us in the room. And to that end, I just wanted to ask you a question on something you had said earlier about the line item you had until the very end, sound man, and then you finally said, okay, delete that line. Were there major discussions or debate within the actual production team in pre-production about, are we really gonna not have dialogue? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, it's a genre that's not practiced anymore. There were suspicions, you know, and I think the fact that I kept a line in the budget is just a producer's instinct. You know, it's easier to erase a line than to add one in the budget.
But were you thinking secretly about actually recording everything just in case?
You know, in this business, I've learned that people tell you, go, and then, did I say that? You know, me? Never, you know. And I had heard there were sales, for instance, that were possible only if the film was in color, for instance. There were talks at one point of after it was released in black and white to turn it into like a Technicolor film, like the John Wayne westerns, you know.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. So no, the sound. It was obvious, you know, that it wasn't going to happen, but it's just an instinct. I'm sorry, we did have half a day of a sound man on stage for the last scene, where there is the irony of it is where Jean Dujardin says "with pleasure," and that was post-synced afterwards.
Yeah.
Because he said it so well in English at the time that the director thought, we need to say it with a French accent just to show these Americans that it's a French movie.
Yeah.
as a sort of a, you know,
That was
there.
an in joke.
Yeah, an in joke. Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess when he put the glass on the table, and all the sounds in that dream sequence were added in post production. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
Were you tempted to have like one colorful item and all in the movie like Spielberg did in Schindler's List? Something?
No, I don't think so. That was a deliberate. At the origin, when Michel met with Thomas Langman, who's the head producer of the movie, Thomas said to him, I think he offered him another movie to make, which is called Fantomas, which is a book that came out in the 30s, which was very popular, and it was sort of about a masked guy with a top hat and just like he's dressed in that movie. And he offered him to direct this, and he said, yes, I'll do it if I can do it silent and black and white. And he said, no, you can't do that because I've already spoken to distributors, and it's not going to be that way. But give me something, and let's talk again. And so he wrote this.
Is there a question over here?
Yeah, the tap dancing, was that actually recorded or was that done post?
The sound of the tap?
Yes.
No, post. All post. Yeah.
Yes.
So after winning Oscar 2 years later, you mentioned that you had a new discovery watching this movie, and I was wondering what the new discovery is. And second question is, would you have done anything differently in this movie?
Would I have done anything differently? I don't think you think that way. I mean, I don't. What's done is done. No regrets. I sort of I don't look back too much. I haven't seen the film since 2012.
But what did you discover this time that you hadn't seen before?
Well, probably details. I don't know, something in a costume, something. I paid more attention to the music, for instance, this time also. I remembered, the day we shot that scene, what time it was, in the night, probably.
I like the three monkeys, the hear no, see no, because we first see them out of focus in the background in the house, and then they keep coming back. And again, I think that's what she was talking about, these little touches of metaphor that exist, that are not focused in on, but are there if you want to see them.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I pay attention to, is little details like that. The monkeys, for instance. Yes, absolutely.
Was that the director's decision, or was that?
Oh, absolutely. No.
They were the same person.
Okay, right.
Right.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, no,
But but put it this way: was it in the script, or was it when they started to develop it? They said, "Hey, this really cool."
I think that sort of detail was not in the script. This is part of the preparation time when you're starting to get all the props, and then you present them, and then the director's thinking, I can put that in that scene, and then why? And if we had that, or it could be even something that the production designer or the set designer explains and justifies. Like if you work in this medium, you have to justify why this object is going to be filmed. If you can't explain it, then it doesn't belong.
But the attention to detail here, I think, went beyond the ordinary. I think that every single thing in every frame was there for a purpose.
Yeah, an example. For instance, the dressing room of Georges Valentin, the set designer had put pictures of his parents on the wall. And the director went mad. He said, why in the world would he have his parents in his dressing room? He's all about himself. Get rid of all that, And so That was all. That was gone. And on the walls, you only see him and Uggy.
And I like the way his wife adorned his photographs. And particularly when he picks up the note at the end. I mean, after she's moved out, and you see the back of
we see it before him,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
also a trick to get the audience inside
Mhm.
the story.
What are you doing now? What are you up to? What do you got?
Well, I have a hard time saying what, because it's never what it's going to be. I'm working on different things. Like 2 weeks ago, I was going to do a film on Champagne, on the story of La Veuve Clicquot.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm looking into something about the Statue of Liberty.
Mhm.
It's really we're in a business where we really don't know what
Yeah.
we're gonna do next, do we?
Yeah. No, and that's one of the attractions of the business,
Yeah.
because every time you make a movie, you're in a different universe than you were
Yeah,
before.
absolutely. I made the films in the Arctic. I never knew in my life I would go and spend a year in the North Pole.
Yeah. But why would you want to? Right.
I tell you what, it's extraordinary
beautiful.
there.
Yeah.
The air is good.
Well,
And
listen.
I've had a scotch with a 20,000-year piece of ice.
Did it taste better?
Much better.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. Okay. Listen, we thank you so much for coming to Hawaii and taking the time to do this.
Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.